That the White House briefing will continue streaming on foxnews.com if you'd like to continue to watch. Donald Trump is now blasting Hillary Clinton over a Wall Street Journal report that the U.S. government covertly shipped $400 million in cash to Iran back in January. The move coincided with the release of 4 American prisoners detained in Tehran. It's our understanding they were released the same day. The Obama administration so far denies any notion of a quid pro quo. Joining us now is Paul Manniferd, the Trump campaign chairman. What do you think of the fact that the U.S. makes this down payment? It wasn't even all of the cash that apparently changed hands. $400 million on the same day U.S. hostages are released.
It's supposed to be part of a $1.7 billion payment. And there are 2 things wrong with it. One, the fact that we are paying an enemy of ours this kind of money for release of our own citizens. And number 2, that the American people are being lied to by the government.
Are you convinced that's what happened, that it was payment for the release of those citizens?
Well, literally it was the payment was made the day the hostages were released. You know, depending on who you talk to, you know, some will say, well, it was 2 different groups negotiating, or with this, that, or whatever. But the reality is, that the nexus of it was all tied together. And yes, we do believe that the U.S. government paid for the release of the hostages, and that's not a way to deal with terrorists. That's not the way to deal with your enemy governments. But more importantly, the American people once again were lied to by the Clinton-Obama administration as to what they were doing on behalf of their country. And this is part of the campaign message that we're talking about. Mr. Trump is talking about is that he believes that under Clinton and as Secretary of State and under Obama as president, the American people have been misled consistently, and it's gotten us into the mess in the world that the world is in today. It's caused the rise of ISIS. It's destabilized the Middle East. And Iran certainly isn't a country that we should be dealing with and expect to get something that's going to help our foreign policy.
What would President Trump have done in that situation?
Well, I mean, you know, you'd have to let the circumstances speak for it, but what Mr. Trump has said is, you know, dealing with Iran is not a smart thing. Dealing with a country that's opposed to your interest, he would not have done the Iran deal that was a part of this overall hostage payment. And he said that when he becomes president, he's going to look at that contract that was signed and make sure that the United States is not going to be put in a bad position.
You say when he becomes president. You're a long way from that. There are reports out there that your campaign is in turmoil, that you personally, as campaign chairman, have lost control of your candidate. Your response?
Well, first of all, the candidate is in control of his campaign. That's number 1. And I'm in control of doing the things that he wants me to do in the campaign. The turmoil, this is another Clinton narrative that's being put out there and that the media is picking up on. In the last week, we just announced our 50-state chairman in the states. We've announced a record amount of money that we raised in July. Mr. Trump has appeared this week in front of crowds that are overflowing onto the streets. So the campaign is in very good shape. You know, we are organized. We are moving forward. And the Clinton machine may not like it, but we're prepared for the fight.
You fired Ed Brookover, though, a guy who came over from the Dr. Ben Carson campaign. That doesn't necessarily, he was an envoy to the Republican National Committee. That doesn't necessarily look like a campaign that's...
No, that would be, first of all, one person doesn't define a campaign. Number 2, he was not even part of the campaign. He was sitting over at the RNC, and his function was to deal with the liaison on the convention, and the convention was over. I mean, Ed's a great guy. You know, the RNC, the role at the RNC was over with when the convention was over with. So it had nothing to do with the campaign and the structure of the campaign. We've hired 50 guys in the last week that we've announced the state directors that went on payroll August 1st. So you know, that should be what's defining the campaign.
Well, there's another report out there, and I want to get your comment on this, that there is to be some kind of a campaign intervention this weekend, that people like Rudy Giuliani and possibly Newt Gingrich and you and the Trump children are going to sit down with your candidate and try to refocus the campaign and direct fire at Hillary Clinton instead of fellow Republicans like Paul Ryan, for instance. Is that going to happen?
This is the first I'm hearing of that. First of all, the candidate, watch him this afternoon. He's going to be talking about the same situation you asked me, this $400 million Iran secret payment. He's going to be talking about Hillary Clinton's failed leadership as Secretary of State. He's going to be talking about her arrogance on what she thinks she should share with the American people as far as the Clinton Foundation and some of the conflicts that she had as Secretary of State. So, I mean, the campaign's focused, and the campaign is moving forward in a positive way. The only need we have for an intervention is maybe with some media types who keep saying things that aren't true.
But there was that email sent out to members of Congress saying, you know, let's put this controversy behind us. Let's try and focus our efforts on other areas. And yet the candidate himself continues to bring that up.
The candidate wanted to make clear that two things on the Khan situation, and we've put it behind us, frankly. One is he does sympathize with them, the family, for the loss. But two, he was concerned more about what caused that loss, which is the failed policies of Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama that led to the rise of ISIS, led to the destabilizing of the situation there, and caused the deaths of many more other American families, sons and daughters. So that's what he was talking about. The Khan situation was not a core as Khan. It was part of a bigger message, and that's what our candidate's trying to talk about.
Also, these reports that Donald Trump in his security briefings was asking about the use of nuclear weapons. Is that true?
It's absolutely not true. And in fact, those security briefings haven't even started yet, that they were supposedly referencing. The idea that he's looking at trying to understand where to use nuclear weapons, it just didn't happen. I mean, I was in the meeting. It didn't happen.
You're about 5 points down in the latest Real Clear Politics polls. Can you make that up?
This is a very volatile race. This is a race about change versus the establishment. The national polls aren't important at this point in time. What's important now as we move into the general are the state battleground polls. And there we're even on the polls, or 1 or 2 points up or 1 or 2 points behind. So we're now engaged. The campaign is on. We like the fact that it's change versus establishment. Hillary Clinton can't be changed. She is the establishment.
Paul Manniferd, the Trump campaign chairman. Thanks for coming in. We'll be right back.